Good morning and welcome to Community Church, Unitarian Universalist. I am Alicia. I am your worship associate. It is a joy to be with you this morning. We are a progressive, open-minded, and inclusive religious community. We welcome all who are on a spiritual search for truth and meaning. Ours is a faith in action as we do the work of social justice and elevate compassion in our quest to live ethically, recognizing the inherent worth and dignity of every being. We have two announcements. In addition to your weekly email from announcements, we will also hear from Michelle and Jim.
Good morning. As you notice, we have a Christmas tree. And so the love and the gifts that each of you bring to this community, we invite you to symbolize at the end of the service, whether you're a member or a visitor, by putting one of the ornaments that are in that gray box on the tree and decorate it, so the tree will represent us as a community. The second announcement is for those of you that love a parade. My daughter Lisa and others are in the crew of Dolly, and they are parading today starting at 12:30 somewhere around on Decatur Street and Frenchman, and then walking down Decatur onto Canal Street. So it should be fun. Looks like the weather's going to be good. If you're looking for something to do this afternoon, the crew of Dolly, they're all dressed up for the holidays.
Good morning. As we've done in years past, in the last few years, this year we are taking up our second Sunday collection and gifts for Rosa and her 4 children. This will be in the fellowship hall. You can take an ornament and bring a gift, a wrapped gift, before December 21st, which is a Sunday 2 weeks from now. Rosa, for those of you who don't know, is a woman who walked to the United States from Honduras with her 4 children. She eventually made her way from California to here in New Orleans. We have helped her out when we can. Right now, of course, help is needed more than ever. She's had to give up a job at a restaurant, a part-time job at a restaurant. She also cleans houses, but for fear of being raided by ICE and Border Patrol. Just so you know, she does have a work permit. She is trying to do things the right way. But as we know, not everyone wants to do things the right way. So, she's terrified she's going to be picked up on the street and her 4 kids will be left without her. She needs help more than ever. We'll take up a collection next week, and please pick at least one of these off the tree if you can. Thanks.
Before we move on and introduce our speaker, we would like to welcome any new and returning visitors to our service today. We are happy to see you, and we hope that you stay after the service for refreshment and fellowship. So in the spirit of fellowship, please turn to your neighbors, especially those you may not know. Say hello, ask them how their day is going, ask them how they're getting to the parade this afternoon. Remember, for the choir never gets
Hey, Paul.
Thank you so much. So I'm very happy to introduce our speaker today. Angela A. Allen Bell is a respected local, national, and international legal scholar an expert on the interplay between race and justice. She's the author of a recently released 3-part book series that begins with Under Indictment: Race, Juries, and Justice in Louisiana, and the founder of the Justice Center, an entity that aims to transform the legal system and other systems that harm, as well as center the perspectives and experiences of people of color who interface with these systems. So please welcome Dr. Bell.
Good morning, everyone. I am going to be talking to you about a conversation that shaped my life. And this is a strange conversation in a strange place with somebody who we would never think would be teaching lessons to a law professor. But I'm going to take you back to a day when I walked into a state prison to meet a man who was in jail inside of a jail. This day, I meet Herman Wallace, one of the Angola 3 members who at this point had been in solitary confinement over 30 years. I see Herman from a distance, and he's walking, his hands are shackled, his ankles is shackled, and he's moving about very slowly, very difficult to walk in these restraints. So I get the chair and I have it waiting on him, thinking immediately once he gets through this long journey to the front where I'm waiting, he's going to be eager to sit. But Herman says to me, before I take a seat, I have a question. He said, "Are you a leader or are you a revolutionary?" So I said, "Listen, I'm a lawyer. I didn't come here to answer your questions. I got questions for you." And Herman said, "Before you sit and before I sit, it's important that you're able to answer that question." So Herman told me that he did not want any lawyers or anyone on his advocacy team that did not understand the difference between being a leader and being a revolutionary. That conversation changed my life, and it changed the way I worked. And so I shared in my book, The Summons, some of what Herman taught me that day. And if you indulge me, I just want to quote specifically from the book so that I do justice to what Herman said to me that day. Herman said, "A leader desires a change that can be accomplished in a season, but a revolutionary measures victory in incremental terms. The revolutionary is prepared to wait for cumulative gains to ferment over time. The revolutionary continuously causes a shift in what the public thought was the best that man could ever achieve. The revolutionary makes it uncomfortable for people to breathe the stifling air of mediocrity. Stated plainly, revolutionaries are people who work for the next generation. Revolutionaries, so says Herman, are long-distance runners."
It is our ritual to light a chalice, invoking hope and eternal truth to our worship. It is also our first Sunday of Advent, so we will be lighting an Advent candle as well. Please join us in singing the words of our chalice lighting, which are printed in your order of service. We are very happy it is the first Sunday of the month, which means that Cynthia is here with our words for all ages.
Good morning, everyone. So this story is a story that has been told by Unitarian Universalist churches for a long time. It's about 400 years old. and I thought it was appropriate for today. Many years ago, in the land of Transylvania, in the mountain valley, watered by quick rushing streams and shadowed by great forests of beech trees, there was a village of small wooden houses with dark shingled roofs. The people in the village were Unitarian religion, and they wanted a church of their own. A church set on a hillside, they decided, looking down upon the village as a mother looks down upon her sleeping child. So all the peoples of the village labored long and hard to build themselves a church. The stone masons hammered sharp chisels to cut great blocks of gray stone, then set the stones into stout and sturdy walls. The glaziers made tiny glass panes and fitted them neatly into the windows with leaded lines. The carpenters carved wood for the pair of wide opening doors, setting them on strong pegs so that the doors hung straight and square. A bell was brought from faraway city, then hoisted by ropes with a heave and a hoe to the top of the tower. The weavers wove fine cloths for their altar table. Cloths were embroidered with flowers and edged with lace. The smiths hammered black iron into tall lamp stands and hammered thin bronze into shiny oil lamps. Finally, when the building of the church was done, the painting of the church began. The painters mixed bright colors, royal red, shining gold, brilliant blue, and everyone in the village, old and young, women and men, boys and girls, came to decorate the church. And at the end of the day, when it was finished, when their church was finally done, all the people of the village stood back to admire it and then to sing a song of happiness and praise. The village had a church now, a church set on the hillside, looking down upon the village as a mother looks down upon her sleeping child. "We will eat now," announced an elder of the village, "because everyone's hungry after their long day's work. And later tonight, we will come back to pray." So the people of the village went down to the hillside, to their homes for their suppers, all except one little girl named Zora and her father who stayed behind. They had brought their own bread and cheese. They ate their food slowly, sitting on the grass on a hillside and admiring their church with its strong stone walls, its tall tower, and its magnificent bell. After they had eaten, they went back inside, opening those carved wooden doors to go into the glorious painted sanctuary inside. "Oh, look, Father," Zora cried, running from picture to picture with her footprints echoing off the stone walls. "See how grand." "Yes, it is," said her father, looking around and nodding with pride. "Yes, it is." "But Father," she said suddenly, "we have not finished." "What do you mean?" "There are tall iron lamps standing all along the walls, but there are no lamps. The church will be dark when the people come back." "Oh, no, little one," said her father. "The light of the church comes from its people. You will see." He rang the bell to call the people to worship, then took his daughter by the hand and led her back outside. They waited on the grassy hillside next to their beautiful church of strong gray stone. The sun had set behind the mountains and night was coming soon. Yet in the growing darkness, tiny points of light came from many directions, moved steadily up the hill. "Each family is entrusted with a little lamp, a lamp, little one," said Father, explained. Each family lights its own way here. "Where is my family's lamp?" "Your mother is carrying it. She will be here soon." The many lights moved closer together, gathering into one moving stream, all headed the same way, growing larger, brighter all the time. Zora's mother arrived, bearing a burning oil lamp in her hand. The father lifted Zora so she could set their family's lamp high on its tall iron stand. All around the church, other families were doing the same. Soon the church was ablaze with light in every corner, for all the people of the village had gathered to pray and to sing. All through the worship service, Zora watched the lights flicker and grow. She watched her family's lamps most of all. When the service was over, her father lifted her high. She took the shining bronze lamp from the lampstand. Its curved sides were warm and smooth in her hands. Her mother carried the lamp home with the flame lighting their way. The lamp flame lit the house when they returned home. Zora washed her face and got ready for bed by the light of the flame. "Mother," began Zora as she climbed into bed and lay down. "Yes, little one," her mother asked, tucking the red wool blanket around Zora's shoulders. "Father said the light of the church comes from its people." "Yes, but also the people take their light from the church." Over on the table by the fireplace, the shiny bronze lamp was still burning, "and we have the light every day." "Yes, indeed," said her mother. "And even when you're not in church, even when the light is not lit, we carry the light of truth in our minds and the flame of love in our hearts to show us the right way to be. That light, the light of truth and love, will never go out." "Never," said Zora. "Never," said her mother. "And this bronze lamp will last for many, many years. When you are grown, you will give the bronze lamp I will give the bronze lamp to you, and when your children are grown, you will give the lamp to them, and all of you will carry it back and forth to the church every time." "But there's only one lamp," Zora said. "Make another, and let the light grow, and someday tell your children to make more lamps too. And now, good night." Her mother said and kissed Zora once on this cheek and one on that cheek and once on the head. Zora closed her eyes and drifted into her dreams while her mother looked down upon her sleeping child. The years passed, Zora grew. The bronze lamp came into her care. She kept it polished and clean, and when the bell rang across the valley to call the people to worship, she carried the lamp back and forth to the church on the hillside, the flame always lighting her way. When the time came, she made more lamps and gave them to her children, who made more lamps and gave them to their children. And so it went, and on through the years, even until today. And always, the light of truth and the flame of love from the Unitarian Church on the hillside continue to grow and show them and us the way. The end. So you can sing the children wherever they may be. Thank you.
Go now in peace, go now in peace. May the Spirit of life surround you.
Torchbearers of change. Generations before us took up the fight against darkness. They were light, holding torches against winds that blow, illuminating paths through the snow. Now it is our turn to pick up the flame and continue the legacy in freedom's name. With every step, with every chant, we will honor the past and the seeds they plant. For they showed the way in battles of yore, and now it is our duty to fight even more, carrying on the mission so grand for justice and peace across the land.
Now is our sacred time of joys and sorrows. If you are online, you may write your joys and sorrows in the comment section to be read out loud. And in person, you may write them down on one of the cards that is being passed out by our ushers, our greeters. Please remain seated as we sing hymn number 151. 151, I Wish I Knew How.
knew how it would feel to be free. I wish I could break all these chains holding me. I wish I could say all the things I could say. Say it loud, say it clear, for the whole world to hear. Say it loud, say it clear, for the whole world to hear. I wish I could share all the love in my heart. We know all the parts that still keep us apart. I wish you could know what it means to be me. Then you'd see and agree, everyone should be free. Then you'd see and agree, everyone should be free. I wish I could give all I'm longing to give. I wish I could live like I'm longing to live. I wish I could do all the things I can do. Though I'm way overdue, I'd be starting anew. Though I'm way overdue, I'd be starting anew. I wish I could be like a bird in the sky. How sweet it would be if I found I could fly. I'd soar to the sun and look down at the sea. Then I'd sing 'cause I know how it feels to be free. Then I'd sing 'cause I know how it feels to be free.
So a sorrow, a letter threatening extreme violence towards a trans employee was found on the door of my son's place of employment. From Jim, a sorrow that so many of our neighbors live in fear of ICE and unjust imprisonment. And a similar sorrow from John, I bemoan all the suffering by those affected by ICE activity. From Cynthia, the pit bull I found underneath my house has found a new home with a new family with young children, and her new name is Lola. From Jacqueline, out of the blue, I was invited to participate in an interfaith clergy prayer vigil at St. Charles Baptist Church. It was an honor, and I was quoted along with CCUU's name in the Times-Picayune, and I did see that this morning. Always great to get our name out there for our core values. And we will light 2 more candles, one for the joys still bubbling up, too new to share, and one for the sorrows that we cannot yet put into words. But please know that you are with us in our hearts. Let us pause for a moment of silence recognizing the joys and the sorrows of those in our community, both spoken and unspoken.
In the words of Buckminster Fuller, you never change things by fighting the existing reality. To change something, build a new model that makes the existing model obsolete. Each year, Harvard has something called the Public Opinion Project. And that project takes a comprehensive look at young Americans and their political opinions and voting trends. Well, this week, Harvard released the results for 2025. That youth poll that just came out tells us a little bit about what's on the heart of 18 to 29-year-olds in this country. Listen to the description that this study gives us of this group at this moment in time. It says this generation is under profound strain. What is concerning the 18 to 29-year-olds today? The report tells us finances, political polarization, uncertainty about the future, feelings that the country's systems, they are failing us. They no longer work anymore. They don't even respond to the needs of the people. When asked for reflections on the study, the chair said, and I am quoting, Gen Z is headed down a path that could actually threaten the future stability of our democracy because they no longer believe in a democracy. They do not trust the economy. They don't even trust other people. Listen to this part of the quote. This study's founder says this is now a 5-alarm fire. We need to act now. So then the question is, are people over 30 doing any better? So I took a look at a recent Gallup poll that polls that group, the over 30s, and there's initially some hope. Why? Because the numbers have gone down for the first two factors, crime and drugs. So it's starting to look very optimistic that the 30 plus folks are feeling a little better these days. But before you get excited about those first two numbers going down, there's a reason for that. And the reason is because adults over 30 are consumed with two issues that have plagued them so bad that they don't have time to worry anymore about crime and drugs. So what are those two issues? It happens to be the economy, the struggle just to live every day, and then of course the security for their futures. So those issues are consuming them to the point where they're not concerned about crime and drugs anymore. So the question is, when we know that the people, including ourselves, and the people in this country are facing these types of daily challenges, what do we do? These polls give us a moment to reflect. These polls give us time to think through three really critical questions. The first of these questions: who should be doing the work of solving these problems? Is it us, or is it the folks who actually are elected or appointed to do this work? If we decide it will be us, what are the strategies that we use to solve these type of systemic problems? If it is not us, what happens to be the consequences of inaction at an hour such as this? So I'm going to use the remainder of my time trying to give us some wisdom on these three questions, and I will do that through storytelling. The first story involves Juan Saint Malo. Juan Saint Malo is a man who is brought to Louisiana during chattel slavery in order to be enslaved. Juan Saint Malo has to make a decision. Juan Saint Malo assesses the life that he will live if he submits to what he's been asked to submit to. And he just decides that I'm going to walk off the plantation. And Juan Saint Malo does something miraculous back in the chattel slavery day. Not only does he decide to leave, but when he leaves, he is successful at this moment in creating an entire alternative universe in the marshes. So he creates something called maroon communities. And once some of the enslaved people see that there is a life beyond what they had come to know, some of them start to leave as well and join him. These maroon communities were such a threat. The governor of Louisiana said, we have to end this because people are attracted to this new thing that they never would have envisioned had it not been for one person deciding not to be complicit in their own oppression. So the governor decided that this needed a military response. The military was deployed. They captured Juan Saint Malo. They tried him, they convicted him, and they put his head on a pole to make a public statement about what happens to people who don't accept oppression. Now, what is it that I want you to learn from this story? There's 6 things that I'm going to ask us to think through. At times like the one I described when I started, which is very comparable to the one Juan Saint Malo lived in, pain and oppression. At times like that, hopelessness and helplessness, they are natural things to do. But what Juan Saint Malo's story represents for us is that we do, as hopeless and helpless as we feel at times of challenge, we always have a decision to make. Do we acquiesce or do we resist? That is an important decision. And Juan Saint Malo chose resistance with so much less than we have at our disposal. The second thing about this story is that it gives us lessons about exactly who it is that causes us the problem. Is the problem because of the person that we see or hear? Is the problem because of the process? Is the problem because of the system? Juan Saint Malo had to identify who was his problem. Was it the person that was holding him in slavery? Was it the process or was it the system? Juan Saint Malo teaches us that practices can be reformed. People can actually be reformed, but systemic failure has to be transformed and never reformed. He understood that well. I also want you to notice what Juan Saint Malo did not do. He did not feel obligated to verbalize, to explain. He simply, without saying a word out loud, disrupted an entire system. So my message to you is that silence is not always a sign of surrender. Sometimes silence is strategy. Sometimes silence can speak loudly. I want us also to notice how he made a very careful assessment of how it would be that he could survive. Notice when he did that. Before he acted, before he escaped, he thought out all of the repercussions and how it would be that he would survive. In other words, Juan St. Malo teaches us about being tactical when we take positions. I also want you to watch what the enslaved people did. The people like the folks in the polls, the people who feel so discouraged. What did they do after he walked off? Some of them followed. There's an important message here at a time like this. If the first person, the person who is the change agent, like Juan St. Malo, does not move, often nobody follows. St. Malo also reminds us that it is a mistake to believe that we must solve the whole problem. Sometimes we are only called to unsteady the thing. Sometimes it is our work just to disrupt, just to be an agitator, and to then trust the ability of the next generation. Remember that word, revolutionary. Those folks that will come behind you to finish the fight that you started. The second story I want to talk to you about involves Oretha Castle Haley. Now, in my first book, she is the source of the dedication, and in that dedication, I say about Oretha Castle Haley. The world knew Haley as a bold, unapologetic, uncompromising Black woman who descended upon segregated New Orleans with hurricane force winds. To those who embraced inequality, she was no ordinary hurricane. Oretha Castle Haley was a Category 5. Miss Haley died in 1987. Like Juan St. Malo, her fight was against systemic failure, which is the case for all of us in this room. Now, when you walked in, you received a handout. I want you to take a peek at that, because on that handout, I found a note that she wrote to me when I was a 16-year-old girl. I made a copy of that note for you because I wanted you to see this in her words. But the note says, with a view of a new world to come. This is a woman who had been arrested. This is a woman who had been persecuted and had lived a life of fighting oppression. But this is the mind that she leaves the world with. What is my point? Through her example, we learn that systemic change should never ever start with us taking any action. Instead, it starts in the mind with a vision. This word visioning is all about imagining this new thing that we want. Visioning is about imagining what success actually looks like if we get it. Without a vision, we don't even know what to build. All we know is what to knock down. And so Oretha Castle's story gives us lessons in visioning. Also, she teaches us about hope. Now, the hope I learned as a young girl was about being patient. It was about waiting around. It was about trusting that somehow somebody was going to fix the thing that was broken. But with Oretha Castle Haley, the hope that this revolutionary represents is unrest, not rest. Oretha Castle Haley's hope was about impatience, not patience. So in short, I want us to think about hope that doesn't just expect change in the future. Oretha Castle Haley's hope was about changes that we do and accept at the present time. Also included in that flyer a little bit about a man named Levi Dickerson. I was in Angola about 3 years ago, and I was talking to the men, all of whom have extreme sentences. Most of them have life sentences. And I was asking them, do you all understand what trauma is? Do you all know that trauma does not allow a trauma survivor to have a warning label so nobody knows that you're a trauma survivor? You have to understand trauma to know it when you see it. And so I was explaining to them that people who are subject to prolonged trauma will often have addiction issues, and you go to a counselor and they'll tell you you're an addict, but if you don't understand trauma, you don't realize that the addiction is really not the addiction. It is your coping mechanism for trauma. And I was telling them a lot of times when you're in school, teachers will say that you don't learn, you might have a disability, or because of trauma, there is something called violence, that you overreact and you explode on people, but you don't know these things if nobody has told you about trauma. And then I said to them, there's a test called an ACEs test, and if you want to take it with me, let's do this together. And to my surprise, all of these men participated. I was shocked. I didn't think they would do it. I thought they would be uncomfortable, but this is what came out of the lesson. At the end, the guys came up and they started saying, Professor Bell, now I know why I killed my mother. Now I understand how I just shot my wife, brother. All of these people had innocently killed someone that they loved and had no idea that they were victims of trauma because no one diagnosed them and no one treated them. But there was a man in the audience that wrote me afterwards and said, Professor Bell, all of those slides that you put up, could you mail them to me? And I did. You're looking at the face of him in the program that you're holding. This gentleman, that picture that you see, I'm with him last month, which is 3 years removed from the day I met him. And in the 3 years that have elapsed, Levi, who has no formal education in general and no formal education relative to trauma, began a trauma awareness program inside Angola. He used the slides that I sent him, and on those slides there were names of other professors, and he wrote them, and they started sending books, and before you knew it, what he started in his dorm has now morphed into something he does in multiple dorms to educate not just the men, but remember, the men are fathers. So these men are parenting sometimes behind bars. And so his work now has a ripple effect. What is the point? The point is that Levi's story contains two obstacles that will stop the average person from doing the work of social change. One is that most people believe that there is a certain pedigree that you must possess to be effective at this work. And Levi tells us that that is not the case. All you really need is training, passion, and a servant's spirit. More important than any formal credentials. The second thing about Levi's story is that we often pause our good efforts because we lack resources. And so I want to explain to you that Levi was obedient to a calling, and as a result of being obedient, the blessings flowed in, and he has adequate support to sustain his work. Final story I'll offer to you is one very strange encounter I had when the governor of Louisiana issued a pardon posthumously to the late Homer Plessy. I was being interviewed by David Begnaud on CBS News relative to that pardon. And David Begnaud asked me for some examples of why the pardon was so important. And I was explaining to David Begnaud how the pardon is necessary because the Plessy ruling legalize this badge of inferiority that Black people wear in this country. And he said, give me an example. And I gave him the example of how often the Plessy ruling walks into the jury box with people when they're on trial. And he said, but that doesn't make sense to me because Plessy's in the 1800s. Is this stuff still relevant? And I said, I'm going to give you one present case to hopefully help you understand how Plessy never ended when the Supreme Court reversed that decision in the Brown ruling. And the name I gave him was Vincent Simmons, a man who was doing multiple sentences for a rape I was sure he did not commit. Now, David Begnaud is not a lawyer, so that's the important piece of this story. Why are you talking to a reporter about a man who is wrongfully convicted? What do you think he can do to help you? And that's my lesson here to you today. David Begnaud, after reading all of the volumes of files, because Vincent Simmons had been in custody over 40 years, David Begnaud was convinced this man was innocent. But remember, he doesn't have any power in the legal system. He's not a lawyer. So what does he do? I want you to look at your documents because you'll see the photos that explain what he did. The lesson is that everyone in a situation of injustice has some power. The challenge is to find the power you have and to find the courage to use it. So David Begnaud says, my only power is the microphone. That's all I have. He took the microphone into the courthouse and said to the prosecutor that I am prepared to air a story on 48 hours. I need you to explain why this man remains in custody. And it was from that one moment where David Begnaud used the only power he had that you see the footage of Vincent Simmons arriving to court that day. I was standing there taking the picture of him getting out of the prison van in that orange jumpsuit that you see with a Bible, because that's all the power he had in that moment. Vincent Simmons did not know that he was going to walk out of what was a life sentence that day. Within 2 hours, Vincent Simmons was free. Not because of great lawyering, but because of a reporter who understood the use of power. I just want to ask you before you leave here to think often of the next generation and to begin that long distance run. Thank you.
I feel like we need to take a moment for that. Community Church is a self-sustaining congregation. Members and friends' generosity help us do the sacred work of bringing justice, spirituality, and compassion to our community and beyond. You can give online, by text with the information on the back of your order of service, or you may give in person this morning. And you may remain seated for our offertory, which is number 85. 85, although this life is but a wraith.
compromise and things have gone. Give me this servant and someone kind, and bring him back as the fight is won. But keep me still and satisfied.
Your materials end with one of the last letters I received from Angola 3 member Herman Wallace. Herman wrote the letter as cancer was incrementally claiming the life that he had left. The letter that you see was received 6 months before Herman died, and he wrote the words that you see in your handout. Herman wrote, and I'm quoting, "I am a soldier, a servant. If I am taken down any time soon, my only wish is that the struggle does not end with me." The man who taught me to worry about the next generation is departing, expressing concern for the next generation. Go forth, kindred spirits, with courage in your hearts, equity on your minds, and justice in your souls. May the fire of activism burn brightly within you, igniting change where there is injustice. May you find strength in community, wisdom in diversity, and hope in the power of love. As you challenge systems that harm, may you exude compassion and visions of transformation. Let your voices rise for those silenced, your actions ripple for those unseen, and your dreams inspire generational changes. Go knowing that the spirit of revolution is sacred and the needs of the marginalized are vast. May you be sustained by divine wisdom, the light of truth, the warmth of solidarity, and the boundless energy of love. Be blessed and amen.
Please rise in body and our spirit for our closing hymn, number 108, "My Life Flows On in Endless Song." And afterwards, please remain standing as we extinguish our chalice. Please join me as we extinguish our chalice. We extinguish the chalice here, that it might go gently in our hearts. May it light your path as you leave this place. May it guide your way until we are together again. Please join us across the hallway for refreshments and fellowship. Thank you so much for joining us this morning.